Hey fellow followers, newbies, and everybody else, welcome back. So this is pretty exciting. Today I'm going to start a completely new series on PHP. So this is going to be part one. First I just want to kind of briefly show you and talk about a project that I'm working on. Part of me is motivated to do it. The other part of me is concerned that maybe it'll be a waste of time or it'll distract from what I got to do now. But as you know, I'm an entrepreneur, and this is a website that I'm working on that I plan to host one day. It's going to have all kinds of stuff on it. But for now, I'm going to use it to show you a little bit of PHP. So let's open up gedit. And first, I'm going to show you how you can see. I'm on a Linux box now. You can do this on a Windows machine too, but I'm actually hosting this website from my computer. So the thing you need to know is that you need to have PHP installed, and of course you can just go on Google and Google download PHP, get the latest version. Chances are it might come with your computer, might not. If you're on Linux like me, it was already on there. If it's not, just do sudo apt-get install php tac-y. But what I like to do is, if I need to remember a syntax or something like that, I'll make a note in a file, and then I can just do this cat php, and that's basically a text file that doesn't have .txt at the end. It tells me the command that I have to type in order to host the site. So in order to launch the page, to host the website from my computer, I do php tac-s 27.0.0.1 port 80, and now we are hosting. So something that you need to know before we get started, this file that's on the screen right now is called index.php. Now you can take your ordinary HTML file and rename it to .php, and it's still going to run just fine. PHP is something that works hand in hand with HTML. They go together. So just because your file is 98% HTML, you can still rename it to .php and it'll load just fine. In fact, if it has PHP in it, you should just, like your index file, my index file, 1% of it is PHP, but you have to rename it to index.php. Okay, whatever file you have that's called index is going to load by default. So in this instance, we have index.php. So let me get organized here. I don't want to knock my microphone over. It's kind of hard for me to look at my plans here and get everything going. So let's open our index file. Come on. Come on. Okay, so go to desktop. And we'll go down to the folder. Also make sure when you type in that PHP command that launches the PHP server that you are in the folder that you want, that's got your your website in it. You don't want to start it from c:/ or root, because then you'll be sharing your whole hard drive. Okay, so we'll open index.php. So let me check my teaching plans here. See where we're going to start. Okay, we're going to start with if statements in this PHP here. Let's go ahead and go down to, and before I jump into the if statement, I'm going to just go ahead and let you know everything that I'm going to cover in this lesson. Although I'm going to put that in the description as well, but go ahead and go over that anyway. So get comfortable, smoke one if you got one, smoke another one if you got one. Alright. Now while we're here, I already got the code for it on the screen. Before I get into that, something you should know, this goes with JavaScript too. Here we have a PHP script that's echoing something to the screen. If you want that centered before the PHP start tag and after the PHP end tag, you just do the center and the HTML. So you can see here that we have HTML and PHP combined. Okay, so let's look at how we start a PHP tag. Even though it's already on the screen, I'm going to go ahead and show you anyway. That I just typed is an open PHP tag. It means that what follows is PHP. Now to end it, we do what we have down here. Bam. Okay. So what goes in between those is the actual PHP code. Now here on the screen, even though I said I was going to start with if then else, but since it's already there, this is how we display the date. Alright. So we got echo, which is also used in the Linux terminal, bash, and batch. It just means print. If we were to look at it from Python syntax or Microsoft Basic syntax, it's print. So current date, dot in PHP represents concatenation. Now in Python it would be something like this is what the syntax would look like in Python. Plus date. So the period means plus, add to it, concatenate, plus the current date plus the variable date, and then this is the string format, month, day, year. Not really complicated at all. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to do is I'm going to make me some comments so I kind of know where I'm working with. Alright. So, we'll start our open PHP tag. By the way, something very important you should know about PHP. You can program something in PHP that works, but if you don't do it just right, whether it works or not, you will have yourself susceptible to being hacked. PHP is very dangerous if you don't program it right. In other words, you can program something and it might work, but if you don't do it just a certain way, your site will be vulnerable to hacks, especially what do they call it? Shoot. I know the name of it, I just can't think of it right now. Injection. Okay, so a variable in PHP is similar to a variable in Bash or Microsoft Basic back in the day. We start it with a $sign. Variable 1 equals 10. So in this case, this variable is an integer. A variable is anything that holds information. But you got strings, which is like letter. It's something that's not mathematical, just letters, numbers, symbols, whatever, but it's not mathematical. And then you got integers, which is numbers, mathematical. Okay, so variable 1 equals 10. Number 2 equals 420. And then we can go if variable, I don't want to type it wrong, variable 1 is less than number 2, curly bracket, echo, it's not quite 420 yet, man. And then we end with a semicolon, and you're going to see that a lot in PHP. It's also very common in C++, JavaScript, and Java. Else, otherwise, if 10 is not less than 420, it must be equal to or above 420. So don't forget your semicolon, and then we end the PHP tag. Oops, I did that twice. So this is our PHP, a basic if-else statement. These are our variables. In this case, the variable, an integer can be a variable. I mean, a variable is a vague term. A variable represents a float, a string, an integer, a boolean, whatever. So those are our variables, in this case integers, and this is our conditional statement. We also have, if it's equal to, we use two equal signs. If it's not equal to, exclamation mark represents not. It can be if it's greater than or equal to. It can be if it's less than or equal to. Or it can just be if it's less than. Okay, so let's save this. Refresh the page. Oops, I hate it when there's problems. Line 134. Made a syntax error. Sorry about that. Hey, I'm not perfect, nobody is. In fact, when you type a code up from scratch, it's pretty rare for there not to be. And there we go. So there's no colon there. That was my mistake. You don't put a colon after the else. And it's, you know, common for that to happen if you're playing around with different programming languages. Sometimes you get the syntaxes mixed up. Okay, so okay, guys, I got it working finally. And you know what? I have no clue why it wasn't working. It was probably something really simple that I didn't see. But yeah, sorry about that. I think maybe I forgot to put the dollar sign or something. But anyway, it works now. You can see that 1 is less than 20, and so it prints it's 420 or later. So that's how for loop works. So moving on. Now we can also do, not for loop, if else statement, sorry. We can also do a, we can use ifs to check string variables. So we have variable equals Scott. Forget our semicolon. And then we can say if equals Scott. Scott is great. Where is Scott? So if variable equals Scott, it's going to say Scott's great. If it doesn't say that, it's going to say where's Scott. Oh, and by the way, you notice on the page that this wasn't centered. If we want to center it, like I said before, we just put a center HTML center tag before and after the PHP script. And then we got Scott is great because Scott var equals Scott. But if we put var equals Scott E, it's not the same as Scott. We refresh the page. Where is Scott? Okay, so that's how we do that. So let's move on. We have an alternative to if. If you have a lot of conditions you can use what's called the switch. And of course, don't forget our PHP opening tab. I'm just redoing it to bring it to your attention. Okay. Switch. Oh, first we got to make a variable. Let's say girlfriend equals, let's see, I'm pulling up names of past girlfriends from my memories. Let's see, then we can do switch. Alright, so far what we're telling it is the variable that we want to do the conditional statements, which are basically if this then do this, if this then do this, if this then do this, else do this, is girlfriend. That's the variable that we're looking at. So then we do case, which means if girlfriend equals this, which will be Jessica, then, and then the next line means then do this. Echo yowzers. Okay, and then since it is equal to what we want it to be, after we're done we'll break, which means we end this little loop. And then the next one, you know, what this case, oops, I spelled, look at that. That's not Jessica. Okay. So far we're saying, okay, we want to check the variable girlfriend. If we want to check the variable girlfriend, if the variable girlfriend equals Jessica, in case it equals Jessica, echo yowzers and then quit checking. So, and then we're going to say if, case means if, girlfriend equals Carrie, we're going to say run for your life. Great. And then the next one is called default, which basically means else. If it's not Jessica and it's not Carrie, default is going to be whatever happens if it's not either one of those. So let's see. Find you a hot, awesome girl with tattoos. I'm not sure if I spelled tattoos right. Try to make this a little bit entertaining too, so it's not so boring, you know what I'm saying? And that's that. Okay, so when we run this, since girlfriend is equal to Jessica, it's going to say yowzers. Let's try it. Hopefully there's no syntax errors. Oops. Oh my, we have a syntax error. There's a colon missing. And where is the colon missing? Just a sec, guys. Okay, guys, I found where I went wrong here. I forgot to put these in here. Open and end. Now, forgive me, I'm a little new to PHP. Oh, gotta turn the server back on. Oh, yeah, I know what else I did too. Okay, there we have it, yowzers. Now let's change girlfriend to Carrie. Run for your life. Now let's change it to one that's not on the list. Find you a hot, awesome girl with tattoos. Lots of tattoos. Okay, so that pretty much covers the switch lesson. Now we're going to look at while loops, which are really fun and one of my personal favorites. Can't get enough while loops. Same. Make sure we end our PHP. Now remember we got our PHP. I'm going to go ahead and type it so I can drill this in you guys' head. Got to open and close with our PHP tags. Remember, if we want it centered, we have to put this HTML center tag before and after our PHP tags. Now we're going to create an integer. Number. We'll call it number equals 1. And then we're going to say while. Oops. Don't you hate it when you're one key off on every key? Number is less than or equal to 420. Then, we don't need that many spaces. Then, echo number plus, which is represented by a period in here. And then we're going to make a break, line break. We're going to insert a little bit of HTML in here. So we're going to do a quote. And that's going to make it print the number on a new line every time. And then we're going to add 1 to the number every time. So we're going to do that number plus plus. Now keep in mind, this syntax right here, we'll just call it X for this instance, or C rather. Say that the integer name was C, or the variable name was C. In C++, if you want to add 1 to an integer every time you go through a loop, you say C++. The irony, right? In C++, if you want to increment an integer, you say C++, or whatever the name of the integer is. I just use C because of, C++. So PHP, C++, and Java all use the same syntax when it comes to incrementing an integer. And a lot of their other syntaxes are the same as well, like Java, PHP, and C++ all use the same syntax for a for loop as well. And I'm sure there's some others. So that's that. Let's make sure we end our for loop. And you'd be surprised sometimes, like when you're new to it, or you'd be sitting there trying to figure out, well, why isn't this working? What am I doing wrong? And it could just be a missing bracket or a missing colon. Now obviously I'm missing something here because this shouldn't be green down here. I'm trying to figure out what I'm missing. Echo number. Oh, I see it. See what I'm saying? That quotation mark right there. So, all right, let's run it. Okay, so while 1 is less than or equal to 420, it's going to add 1 to the number every time. And then eventually it hits the number 420. And since it's equal to 420 at that point, it quits. So that's a while loop. Now we're going to look at a do loop. This is very similar. Okay, let's say x equals 1, do. Let's call it C, just so I can have a C++ in there. C plus plus. Echo C and then put a new line in there every time so that it's not on the same line. And that, and then we go while C is less than 10. Do while. Now you might be thinking, well, what's the difference? It's the same thing. It pretty much is the same thing except for one thing. Whether the condition is true or false, the code inside the brackets is executed at least once, whether C is less than 10 or not. And that's the difference between a do while loop and a while loop. Okay, let's save it, run it. By the way, Control S saves. Ruh-roh. Little syntax error. What did I do wrong now? Another one of them little simple mistakes. Let's see here. This happens to everybody, even like I took a Microsoft class one time and they were even making simple mistakes like this. C plus, I think in my last syntax I had a after there, but yeah, I'm not sure that's what it is though. Let's see, echo looks right. Let's try it again. Wow. Yeah, that missing is what screwed it up. So it's very picky. Okay, so what we have here is set while 1 is less than 10, print while C is less than 10, which is 1, print C and add 1 to it every time. So as you can see, we see here we're missing 1. Because before it prints C, it's already added 1 to it. See, if we just switch these two around and put echo first, we'd see 1. But since we have it C++ first, we don't. Okay, moving on. Okay, probably gonna wrap this video up here pretty soon. We'll do one more thing. This is going to be a big video, a big file. We're going to look at the for loop. Now keep in mind this is the same syntax as C++ in Java and JavaScript. For, let's go ahead and make a comment first. I'm not sure how comments are done in PHP. Set an integer, then we set a condition, and then we increment. So we're going to go for y equals 1. That's our integer. Now we set our condition like we do in the while loops. While y is less than or equal to 5, and then we do our increment, y plus plus. Echo y. Now this is useful if we want to do something over and over and over and over, or if we want to plug 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 into something like we want to go through a list or an array or an integer. You'll figure it out. You might not see the purpose behind it yet, but you will. See, I should have added the space in there. 1 is a number, 2 is a number, 3 is a number, 4 is a number, 5 is a number. Alright, I'm about to wrap this up, but pretty much covers it. Now, for me, I'm going to go over everything that we just covered in here. So, we looked at if statements using integers and variables, switch statements, which is an alternative to if statements, while loops, do loops, and for loops. And the next part 2, we're going to look at arrays, associative arrays, modifying those arrays, for looping through them using a for each loop, functions with parameters, returning values from functions, and then forms, which is like you know, you've got some boxes on the screen that says enter your name, email, and comments, and you click a button called submit. We're going to look at all of that. Now, PHP is also integrated with, it can work with MySQL. So, and you should also know that PHP is potentially, if you don't know what you're doing, a very dangerous language to program in, because it can make your website very vulnerable, and even your whole computer that the website's being hosted from. But anyway, I'm going to sum this up before I fill up my hard drive. Thank you for watching. I hope you found this helpful. Please comment. Questions, let me know. Shoot them at me. You can contact me at stonedaimuser@aim.com. Appreciate you guys watching. Hit me up on AOL Instant Messenger via AIM Phoenix, Stone to Aim User. Until next time, I'm Scott. Everything awesome. Peace out. Keep coding.